Okay, so today we want to talk about Overwatch development in 2019. What we have seen so far and what we can expect, and we went out of our way to. Birdie have done a little bit of research. I just took some notes. Want to talk briefly about the new hero Baptiste, some of the design philosophies that go into it, what we think about that. We're going to talk about the hero changes, obviously, because that's the big thing that's looking to combat GOATs, whether or not we think they succeed, and what we think about their thought process with these changes and the timing of them. Something I've briefly talked about in my video last Friday. And also going to talk about new content like the new map Paris. Going to talk about the supposed leak of a story mode, as well as the upcoming Overwatch Archives event, and several developer comments that I've picked up on the forums. Today's just going to be Birdie and I because Nate is sleeping, lol. And yeah, we're going to be talking about all these things. Birdie, thanks for being here, not leaving me alone with that. At least somebody's here.
Hello, everyone hates me because I tell them they suck.
Listen, dude, here's the thing. We're the best part of Insomnia Squad anyway. People say that Nate's only imitating the way Surefoot talks because apparently there's no original way of talking anymore. So
yeah, Nate's just a faker, dude.
yeah, he's just
big
a fake
fat
Surefoot.
phony.
Exactly. He's just pretending. So we got the best part of Insomnia Squad right here. So without losing any more time, what about we just start with a new hero? Quick thoughts on their design philosophy? What have they done here?
Actually, I was in a class when you started talking about the new hero on Discord, in your Discord, and you started like describing his abilities, and I was like, this sounds broken. And it was all like what my first impression was, like right out the bat. And then when I actually saw the video of it, I was like, okay, this isn't as broken. Let me actually look into this a little bit more. And then my first impression was like, yeah, his invulnerability thing. I'll get into that in a second, but like overall, his kit, I could see it working. However, I do think Blizzard is going to have to go through some balance changes as far as tweaking the cooldowns, how much they like his healing output, damage output, things in that sense. I don't know what numbers they will tweak exactly, but his like the kit itself is like, okay, this is cool. I like it. They need to tweak it, make
Like
it
numerically.
balanced,
Like the kit itself is
yeah.
fine, but numerically they're probably gonna want to look into that. However players use them on the live servers in a real environment.
Yes. Anything you want to say before I talk about his invulnerability thing? Because I am going to talk about that.
Okay, so the thing is with his invulnerability, I don't feel that strongly about it. I think it's a stupid ability we don't need just because it's going to confuse a lot of players who don't keep up with like all the news and stuff. Like, hey, that's a new character. Why can't I kill these people? But I think that with this new hero in particular, they've done a lot of things very right in my opinion. Like, people hate it when I compare Overwatch to Fortnite in terms of like development, what they do. I'm gonna do the same thing with Apex here because I'm effing addicted to that game. But one thing Apex does really well is that there are no panic buttons. Everything has an animation attached to it, so you can't just like, oh, whoops, here's my rewind. Guess I didn't mess up after all. They don't have that in Apex. And Baptiste, is that how you pronounce his name?
I'm pretty sure the way Jeff Kaplan pronounced it is Baptiste.
Baptiste? Okay. All right, so
it's spelled Baptiste, I think. I don't know.
Alright, so let's just say Betty's for the sake of simplicity. The thing that I really like about him is that they start introducing that kind of design philosophy as well, where his jump ability, his exo boost or whatever it's called, it charges up. You can't just immediately do it to get away, you have to do it in preparation. And the same thing goes for his heal. It's a heal over time. It's not an instant heal like with Brigitte. It just flies through the air really quickly and bam, you instantly heal. It's a heal over time. It's a hot. I like that. And I think with the immunity drone, they also have an animation, but it's a very, very short one. One thing that worries me there is that if you place it out of line of sight, you literally just can't play the game until that cooldown is off. And that's something that really bothers me, and I'm interested to hear what you have to say about that.
I was going to say the exact same thing, because I have the same thought. Like, the counter argument everyone's always going to make is like, but you can destroy it. It's not that powerful. It only makes you invulnerable down to 40 health, and it can be destroyed, and then they're screwed. It's like, okay, about that. Yeah, exactly. If you put it in, it's like, it's not about the fact that it can be destroyed. It's about the fact that if you put it in a good position where they can't destroy it, it lasts for 8 seconds. That is a long time in Overwatch to be invincible.
That's right.
So that's why I think it's like the most broken ability that he has right now. But I don't really know what else to add on top of what you said. Like, Blizzard has this habit of adding just like you said, panic buttons basically. Like with Apex, whenever we play Apex, I can't just. You've seen me do it before. Like when I get myself into a bad situation, which happens all the time on Wraith, I can't just panic button out of there because it has an animation. And even when I do manage to pull it off, like okay, I'm fading out, it is 100% very easily counterable because it's like okay, I can't see where the enemies are, and they know exactly where I'm going now.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's no panic thing about that. It's just about who can counterplay the fact that I used my ability better or stop me from using it altogether at all.
Same with
So
ultimate
I don't
abilities.
I don't really want to talk about it anymore though. It's the design that Overwatch has and people have gotten used to it, and it's part of playing the game. It's a very frustrating aspect of the game, and I hope if they ever release like an Overwatch 2 in a few years, I hope they rework all of the characters in a way that doesn't those panic buttons don't exist anymore. Basically, like everything has like a charge. Like everything is counterable, and even the stuff that's counterable is counterable. You know,
Yeah.
like a Tracer and McCree matchup kind of way. Whoever is the more skilled Tracer versus McCree will win that fight, and a Tracer can dodge a flashbang and a McCree might not even need a flashbang to kill a Tracer, you know?
Yeah.
Matchups like that are more what I want to see where, like I said, it's counterable, and even the counter is counterable.
I still think that, because I've said that back then, I still stand by it, that there are no heroes that this game needs anymore for the sake of, like, the game functioning and working. And that's why these new characters become weirder and weirder. I honestly think they're running out of steam. I think they're running out of ideas of what they are supposed to do, and they add so many things. Like, the fact alone that we have so many different barriers that can be deployed, we have a variety of different turrets, we have so many projectiles, and now you add another item to the game that does a completely different thing with the invulnerability. I think that's a mistake. I don't think we need that. I think Baptiste as a character was not necessary, and they just do it because, hey, content. That's the only thing we can think of as for adding new content to the game. And I get that people like new heroes, it's exciting, it changes up the game. I don't think it always changes up the game for the better, and more often than not, it does the opposite. And that's my stance on the whole matter. But again, I'm not blaming anyone who's like excited for the new hero. I just think personally, he didn't need to exist. I think it's going to confuse a lot of players. And I think this invulnerability in relation to the map design is going to be a massive problem, and it's probably going to have to be looked into. I don't know how, but the fact that you can hide it out of line of sight, and that's like 8 seconds and you can't do anything against the enemies, it's probably going to be very frustrating. And I guess we can move on to the hero changes. I think you should start with Lucio, considering that you have a lot of experience with Lucio. I'm going to jump into Zenyatta, and then we can talk about the rest, like as a bulk, essentially.
So it's funny because I do play a lot of Lucio, and it's not like I play Lucio at like a super duper low level. Like I'm not even gonna say masters. I play Lucio at a diamond level, and it's not like super super high. Like everyone's gonna be, oh, you're just a diamond player. That's still the top 10% of players in
Way to
competitive.
jerk yourself off,
So,
lol.
well, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like I play Lucio and diamond. That's still the top 10% of players, regardless of what everyone thinks skill wise. That is. Um, and Echo, our friend Echo, who is a top 500 Lucio player, had his own thoughts on it real quick. When I asked him about it, he said that he did notice the changes, and I completely forgot about them when I started playing Lucio on PTR, and I actually didn't notice them. And I think the reason I didn't notice them is because I spend a lot, just like Echo, Echo might have been looking for them, but I spend a lot of time wall riding, and they buffed his wall riding speed. Overall, it's like 10% slower, but I think that's the reason I didn't notice is because they buffed his wall riding speed but reduced his speed boost. So I'm still wall riding around everywhere almost as quickly as I used to be able to before. So it's not like that made a huge difference in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't disagree with the changes that they made because like Lucio's such an essential part of the goats composition. Like if you look at stats for Lucios on in Overwatch League, they spend about 70 to 80% of the time on speed boost. And that sounds ridiculous to a lot of ladder players, but that doesn't surprise me like at all because it's goats especially. So nothing fundamentally changes about the way his kit works. It's just slightly not as good now, but it's one of those things that goats like heavily relied on is how fast Lucio was because it's a close range brawly kind of comp, and to compensate for that, you had Lucio speed boosting teams into other teams, so that doesn't work as well. So I think it's a good change for goats, but his healing output's the same. He still does, like I said, he does the same thing. And for the Lucio player himself, I don't think this changes anything at all.
A lot of what you described about Lucio, I feel very similar about Zenyatta. And I'll preface this whole thing with these changes are very unlike Blizzard. It's almost like they finally got somebody who knows what they're talking about to give them some suggestions as to what they should be doing. And they managed to keep the utility of the characters, especially for us who play on ladder, without leaving them overpowered in pro play and on high ladder where GOATS really thrives. And Zenyatta is kind of the same thing. It's like I got my damage buffed for a nerf on my Discord orb, which means that my team overall is going to do less damage to the target, but I will do the same damage, or roughly the same damage. That means that my 1v1 potential is the same, and as a ladder / quick play player, most of the kills that I get off of discorded targets are from me doing the damage anyway. It's not like my team is coordinated enough to always jump on the discorded target anyway. So really, this 5% that we lose on the Discord orb is going to affect the highest top players and the pro players the most, and it's going to cripple GOATS, because in the way that Lucio is the legs of GOATS, Zenyatta is the sword, essentially. It's where all the damage comes from, or a lot of the damage is coming from. So if you cripple their speed and you cripple their damage, that's probably going to hit them very hard. And I'm very much in favor. I saw a lot of Zenyatta players who were very disappointed, like, oh no, my Zenyatta's getting nerfed. But again, it's only like for the top of the top. You as a Zenyatta player outside of these top ranks, probably not going to be able to tell the difference, because your team's going to lack the coordination and you're probably going to do around the same damage anyway. So again, I think it's very unlike Blizzard to handle a situation like that. They're very much known for sledgehammer types of nerfs where like characters are either overpowered or completely useless. Or, in the situation of Brig, where they seemingly didn't understand the situation at all, and they start chip nerfing her rather than actually sledgehammering where they should be, and she just remained overpowered for a very, very long time. And Reaper, if anything, Reaper showed that they have no idea what they're doing when it comes to balancing, and that's why I'm saying that it seems very unlike Blizzard to make these changes to Zenyatta and Lucio, considering what they did to Reaper, trying to have him counter GOATS.
And I'll get back to that in a little bit, but like, I completely agree with what you said. It's like the time to kill, like it still takes the same amount of orbs with or without Discord to kill a 200 HP target, and it really only nerfs your ability to annihilate tanks, which directly impacts your ability to work in a GOATS-like composition, which is a great change overall.
Yep.
Like I don't disagree with those changes, but like let me back you up a second though. You said it almost seems like they got someone in Blizzard that knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
You don't?
Nope. Maybe they did, and maybe that's where these changes are coming from. But let's talk about that development cycle for a second, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Brigitte came out March 20th last year, which is we're coming up on it's 18 days away from that to the year right now. So it's been almost a year that we've had Brig. GOATS didn't exist quite when Brigitte was released. It could have, it's one of those things that's like it was there, the composition could have existed, but no one knew about it, so no one was running it. So GOATS didn't technically exist yet because no one knew about like how powerful it was and they weren't running it. But probably let me ask you something first. How long do you think it took for the first Brigitte nerf to come out?
The first Brigitte nerf. Probably the first patch after she was released?
Nope,
I know the time frame of that. A month and a half. Oh, yeah, that's a long time to spend with a broken character like that.
Within that month and a half was when you had a lot of like platinum players climbing into, no kidding guys, like Grandmaster effortlessly playing Brigitte because she was so broken upon release. And I didn't count exactly how many nerfs she went through, but she's had one very, very minor, insignificant buff, and everything else has been a nerf since her release. But on that note, like that first nerf came out, pretty much every major update after that, Brigitte got nerfed. Brigitte's nerfed. Brigitte's nerfed. Brigitte's been nerfed like over and over and over again. Even now, she's still getting nerfed. This last patch, she was technically nerfed because of the changes they made to health prioritization and like temporary armor now overriding shields. So she's constantly being getting nerfed this whole time. But like, how long does it take to get to the point to where we are now, where we're still not even sure if this is going to get fixed, if like these changes will fix anything? It's been a year.
It does kind of push that sentiment that, oh, this character's been nerfed so much, stop nerfing her, clearly she's fine now. But more than anything, I think it speaks for a character that's just broken fundamentally by design.
A character that should not have existed in the
Yeah,
first place.
I think the right thing for them to do right now will be to make characters obsolete. I don't think that a character like Symmetra should ever be meta. I don't think that a character like Brigitte should ever be meta. I do think they should be bottom of the barrel, barely playable, because these characters, honestly, they were a mistake. And Symmetra would have been fine if they didn't try to rework her to work more universally. She was meant to be a niche hero, and they tried to make her work at, multiple places that she was never designed for. So,
I mean, you saw, I don't know where you saw this, so you could say where you saw it, but you even saw like an interview that someone did with Jeff Kaplan where they said that was their design philosophy, is that there's going to be situational hero picks, and they weren't expecting people to one-trick heroes.
That quote real quick, there was Jeff Kaplan on the Overwatch forums where, if I can touch on that really quick, Jeff said something along the lines of, they didn't expect one-tricking and maining to be as prevalent as it was, and the game and the characters were built with the intention of players swapping to whatever makes sense depending on the situation. And I had an entire script written for that, where I talked about all these things and, how they gave up on their original design philosophy without backtracking the systems that were designed for that. So now they try to support this whole, like, oh, you can play whatever you want, but they never backtrack to fix these systems that were never meant to support that. And the matchmaking shows that, the map design shows that, the hero design shows that. I scrapped that video simply because it was I made that in very aggravated fashion because it screamed incompetence to me. The thing is, I don't blame them for not seeing that one-tricking would be so popular, because if you spend so much time working on the intricacies of something, you can lose sight of the obvious things. Sure, for us in hindsight, it's like, obviously people will be one-tricking and really liking a single character all the time. It's easy to say that in hindsight, but again, if you spend so much time working on a game in the shadows, so to speak, it's easy to forget these things. You are so occupied with working on so many things to make this thing work that you forget this type of stuff. But the fact that they gave up on their design philosophy essentially the week that the game launched, and like, well, I guess people don't want to play that way, and instead they could have done so many things. For example, Dirty Bomb had a system where you would get, I think every 6 hours you would get a new mission to get in-game currency, and that mission would require you to get a certain amount of XP. That would be support XP, objective XP, or like combat XP. And then
Siege does the same thing too.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's the reason in Siege I don't just play Tachanka all the time.
Yeah, and they can encourage you by being like, hey, you can get a bunch of in-game currency by trying out this character. And that's just one small thing. It's one small thing that doesn't take a lot of work that can encourage players to try out different characters. And there are so many smart people working at Blizzard that I'm sure beyond this very simple idea, they could have done more to encourage players to follow that design philosophy. There was a video from Mark Brown, I believe, on how video game designers save players from themselves, because when given the opportunity, players will absolutely optimize the fun out of a game. And that's exactly what we're seeing. We don't play GOATS because it's fun. We play GOATS because we want to win. If I don't forget, I'm going to link that video in the description below, because honestly, that video from Mark Brown, very much worth a watch. You will understand a lot of things about what's going wrong in Overwatch when it comes to development, and especially that design philosophy we speak about this entire time. That too many clashing systems in this game because they never settled for a thing and went through with it. And that's what really bothered me more than them not seeing that one-tricking will be popular or anything.
A great example of the consequences of this. I was just watching the video we did with Ragtag like a couple months ago, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
Where we were talking about the Reaper changes when those hit PTR. This is why you don't want every hero to be viable. They buffed Reaper a lot, and he hardly sees any time in pro play still, because, okay, if Blizzard had just asked a coach, a professional player, an analyst in Overwatch League, the thing that they dump so much money into anyway, might as well utilize it for something.
Yeah.
If they just asked someone, hey, do you think that if we made these changes to Reaper right here on this piece of paper, that it will affect the ability for GOATS to be so effective? I guarantee you, every single person in Overwatch League would have been like, no, that's stupid.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Please don't do that, sir.
Is that not the exact same reaction I had when I heard about the changes? I was like, this isn't going to work. Reaper doesn't counter GOATS, and there's a whole reason why it doesn't work, as far as from the way the game's played from analysis and coach perspective, which is what I had and why I was able to see that. But sure enough, like when you see Reaper and Overwatch League, I've been watching quite a bit. It's boring, but I have been watching quite a bit. The few times Reaper has worked, those fights were already won anyway.
Yeah, that's one thing I saw your Overwatch say on Twitter, where Reaper is a win more character. It's not a we make this win right now. It's just you ensure a victory that you were going to win anyway, but you want more time on the time bank, and you can brawl it out with that character on the spot. For people that wonder, why do these buffs help him in low rank but not in high rank and pro play? It's because people are not mechanically skilled enough to land enough shots on him to mitigate that healing, that self-healing that he has, and that's assuming that they have the game sense to turn around and heal the guy teleporting behind him or literally just walking behind him. Most players will not react to a Reaper walking behind them because they lack that game sense, and even if they do react to it, more often than not, they don't have the mechanical skill to out-damage that self-heal.
Going back to the whole development cycle thing though, it's taken a year to reach the point where we are now with these hero changes, and that really needs to get expedited so badly. We've said it before, it should have, the amount of changes we've had as far as balancing, not with Baptiste, ignoring the fact that we've had new heroes since then, balance wise, the buffs and nerfs that we've seen the last year should have happened within 2 months, in my opinion.
Put it that way. If we have the choice between a slow development process that introduces broken things that don't get fixed for months or even a year at a time, versus hot fixing and faster patches that try to take care of these things and in the process create more broken things, at least these things are taken care of quickly versus us having to play, Mercy meta for a year, GOATS meta for a year, that kind of stuff.
And it's it keeps things interesting. It's what's the flavor for the freaking week or the month,
Isn't that the one thing that people always say?
That keeps the game interesting for me.
Yeah, people always say that the meta gets stale, so why not have patches every month, right? Be like, okay, so this has crystallized to be very powerful. Everyone wants to play that. Let's try to somehow balance that a bit. And I'm not expecting them to be geniuses that look into the future and see what's going to happen. Obviously, if they try to patch something, it creates another broken meta, which just happened every single time. They can at least go back on that the next month. They can try to do that a bit more quickly and make sure that the meta doesn't get stale, to make sure that players don't get frustrated. And now that the Overwatch League is out, I think that's going to be more difficult. I think that at this point, they're almost manufacturing a meta. In my video last Friday, I talked about how the reason that they had the means and assuming the knowledge on how to try to do all these things that we talked about today with all the hero changes that look to combat GOATs, they could have done that months ago. They literally could have done that months ago, but they didn't do it because Overwatch League was not there. And they're starting the Overwatch League with GOATs, and then in the second stage, they want a completely different meta. Third stage, they want a completely different meta. I think that's the plan. I think they want a new meta every stage to make sure that people don't get bored of watching it, because they learned that last time people got bored of Dive. I didn't, but a lot of other people did. So if you think about it in the business sense, they don't care what we play on ladder. They care about what we watch on the screen. And they want to make sure that what we see on screen is the same thing we play, just so we actually want to play the game, because as much as the game itself doesn't seem to make them all that much money, it still benefits them when we want to play it and we feel more attached to the IP. And I don't know how I feel about that, because honestly, what we just talked about, if you just hotfix more of these broken things and you patch them more quickly, then you could make for a more enjoyable ladder experience where, flavor of the month, kind of what you talked about, that we have to adapt to that and learn. Instead, we are stuck with these very broken meta trends for such a long time, and it gets very, very frustrating. Okay, so considering that we spent so much time just talking about the balance changes, we should probably talk about some of the new content that we can expect in 2019. Obviously, we got the new map, Paris. Honestly, it feels kind of like another 2CP map. It's reskinned Hanamura or whatnot, or reskinned, what's that one map called again? The desert map?
Horizon? Temple of Anubis?
Temple of Anubis. To me, it feels a bit like a reskinned Temple of Anubis. No, aesthetically, it's a cool map, but again, I said it time and time again, I don't think maps make good content. I said it on Twitter. Some people agree, some people disagree. That's fine. I just think that it's ridiculous that they expect us to learn new maps. A lot of people don't like 2CP. That's kind of besides the point. But the fact we can't have consistent performance on ladder when the entire map pool is always on display, because you can't expect a player to be consistently performing on every map, considering that the maps were not designed to allow every character to be consistently viable. So that's where all the inconsistencies come from. If you have one day where you play a lot of maps where Torbjorn's really good, you're going to climb a lot of elo. If you have a day where you get all the maps where Torbjorn's bad, suddenly you do much worse than the day before. So I don't think that they should add maps as quickly as they do. I think that there should be a map rotation feature that I don't think they ever talked about, but I think it's something the game needs for the competitive scene. And really, I mean, that's really all I have to say about maps. Do you have anything to add before we move on to the next thing?
I don't mind 2CP as much as other people do.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't really bother me that much. I think it's a cool looking map, but the first point seems weird and the second point seems really hard to cap. It's another weird one. Like, I don't really know how to feel about it yet.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
It's an introducer to comp.
It's cool looking. It has a piano. That's nice.
As a piano, it's the best feature of the entire map.
I mean,
let's be honest.
you saw my notes on like what are we going to talk about with Paris? My notes is who cares.
Yeah, it's unfortunately true. Like maps just don't make good content. Like who cares about that? Honestly, something that people might care about is a potential story mode. And I wish I could show you that video on screen right now. Unfortunately, I could not find it anymore. I don't know if it's been taken down, deleted, or just too stupid to find it. But there was like a phone recording of a screen showing. Like the home screen of Overwatch, they click on play, and next to competitive play, there was a story mode. Now, there are a few things we can assume what this means. First, it could be fake. It could be anything. We don't know if it's actually a thing or not, and we should assume that it's fake, but assuming it wasn't fake, it's probably just going to be archives, honestly. I think it's just going to be all the archives mission playable all throughout the year in that story button, and it's not like going to be a fleshed out story mode. I think with archives and the Halloween event, Blizzard has shown that they are incapable of programming engaging AI. And without engaging AI, you cannot make a good story mode. So even if they do come up with something like that, where it's like, hey, here's a story mode you can play through, it's probably not going to be good. It might be interesting if they make like some nice story bits, like good voice acting, maybe some animations, I don't know. But from a gameplay perspective, there's no way in hell I would believe right now at face value that this is going to be engaging gameplay. There's no way in hell that I will believe that they know what replayability means, because they've proven time and time again that they don't know that, which is sad because a lot of the developers have worked on World of Warcraft and the replayability there is much, much better with their content. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to think about the story mode because it's something we've been asking for a lot. I just think personally that they are not capable of delivering on a good story mode, besides the point that this is probably fake anyway.
Yeah. I don't know if it's fake or like I did find the video, so I'll be able to give that to you.
Dope.
Yes, I'll give that to you. But it's one of those things. It's like you look at it and it's like this looks pretty real, to be honest. And the person's just like, hey, updates coming soon. Like they're just someone from Blizzard that's just like leaking crap on their Instagram.
A QA tester or something.
Yeah, but like. It could very well just be like someone photoshopped this and is making it look like they work at Blizzard and it's totally fake. But I don't know how many people like know about this thing either. I just like saw it randomly on a Facebook group. And I was like, this looks real. Why is no one talking about this? Well, people might not be talking about it because it's not real. So I don't know.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I don't know what else to think about it because like we don't know anything other than this person possibly leaked a new game mode on her Instagram, so we'll see what happens.
In fairness, Apex Legends was leaked like a year ago on the Titanfall 2 Reddit, and nobody believed them. So maybe we have a similar situation where like somebody leaks a story mode for Overwatch and nobody believes it.
No one talked about it. Yeah, no one's talking about it.
Who knows? It might be real, it might not be real. Right now, I'm tending to believe that if it is real, it's probably going to be dog shit. From a gameplay perspective, it might be interesting from a story perspective, which is something I've been asking for a lot. I want the story to move forward. Why are we still in the recall phase? Come on, give me some story. Stop with that stupid lore. Your lore is terrible anyway. Move forward.
You know what I would actually really enjoy out of this? What? Is if it's like Echo said thinks, or maybe it was Nate said he thinks it was gonna be like just a release of all the like comics and stuff just online and whatnot. But what I would actually really enjoy is I'd be okay with that, but in addition to that, they just like lore dump us with a lot of other stuff in there. Like no gameplay stuff. Just
dude, they need to stop with the lore. It's like your lore is dog shit. I don't know why it is, but Blizzard is not good at like writing story. If you look at like across the franchise, their story is terrible. Let me tell you, as somebody who's played World of Warcraft for over a decade, their story is terrible. The story in Overwatch is terrible, but I wanted to move forward. At least if you make the story, make it go somewhere rather than always talking about the past. Because honestly, I'm getting so bored of lore, and I want story.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is that like it's like they're progressing the story. Like that's what it would be.
Hopefully.
Like videos, comics, just like short stories, stuff like that. Like just dump a bunch of them right there and just be like,
gameplay,
here's your story, guys.
It needs
here's
to be gameplay, though. You can't just put comics in the game.
I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you do that in a game like Overwatch. I mean, we have archives, but I don't want that to be every single.
But that's what I'm saying. I think, honestly, dude,
at
best, story is just archives. Story is just all the archives missions you can play all year long. At best. That's what I'm assuming.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Like, how are they gonna make money off of this if it's just a story mode in the game? Probably they're not gonna. So why would they dump money into making it? We know Activision's behind it anyway. We know Blizzard has to make money somehow because they just fired 800 people. And that's one thing too that I want to briefly talk about, where I think a lot of the developers are probably feeling a lot of pressure because of all the heat that Blizzard is getting as a company. I don't think they fired any developers per se, but if you read every week some news story about the company that you work at being under fire by social and new age media saying, hey, Blizzard is terrible, Blizzard lost their touch, they just fired people, and like, how can you work comfortably and be creative when the person that you work next to just got fired? Like that kind of deal, you know? I honestly think that gets to them. I honestly believe that. Now, I feel really bad for leaving this for this late / almost the end of the video, considering that this is kind of a big thing, and I don't know how long we're going to be talking about that, but I did not see the video myself just yet, but I've seen a lot of forum posts and the like where people have been paraphrasing and quoting that Jeff Kaplan supposedly said, essentially, Brigitte was a be careful what you wish for kind of situation, where I already gave them a lot of flack for blaming the community that, oh, we want to make really cool stuff, but we have to make sure you guys are not toxic. It's your fault we can't make cool stuff. I thought it was silly. I thought putting the blame on us was, quite frankly, not right. It's their game. It's their responsibility. And if it's true that he said Brigitte was a be careful what you wish for situation, then that, to me, again, screams complete and utter incompetence. Because if the only way that you can combat dive, which was something people complained about, was by introducing a grossly overpowered character and have them be overpowered for such a long time because you don't know how to balance them, then that means you are incompetent as a developer. And honestly, why the fuck? Why is the community manager not doing anything? Who is the community manager for Overwatch, and why do we never hear them do anything? If you look at World of Warcraft, for example, Josh Allen, I think his name is, community manager lore, he's the guy getting the developers to move in front of the camera and talk about stuff. The community manager has a face, the community manager is there doing things, he is taking this information and giving it to the community. Where is the community manager for Overwatch? Why is this unfiltered information getting out to the public where the developers say dumb shit like that? How can you let them say that the community is at fault when they're doing their job badly? That's what I want to know. Their communication with the community has been terrible. They don't talk to us for months at a time, and then they come out saying dumb shit like that? You saying that it's our fault that you made Brigitte because you didn't know how to balance Winston and D.Va? Are you kidding me? Honestly, I'm losing more and more respect for what they are doing, considering that every other thing that we hear them do just screams incompetence. What are they doing?
This freaking, here's Brig, she's gonna counter dive, and then we're gonna nerf D.Va anyway.
Oh, God, I don't know. You
wrong.
Can't just say things like that. What do you mean be careful what you wish for? People didn't like dive. That doesn't mean that you have to ruin the game for it. And if you do, then that just means you're bad at your job.
People didn't like dive, and then you managed to get rid of dive, and now people hate it more. It means that dive wasn't the problem. It was the game itself that was the problem.
Yeah, exactly. They also talked about Enforce 222, which is like, it's a lot of speculation on how that's going to work and what they're going to do exactly with it.
I think Enforce 222 in addition to hero bans would be amazing. The
think
variety in compositions you get would be outstanding.
I think this should have been the game day one. I think it's almost too late now. I think for competitive play, yes, to enforce 2-2 with hero bans could be a thing. Hero bans alone could already do a lot. I think at this stage in the game, introducing 2-2-2 as like the default game mode is probably not going to work. But here's the thing: if you introduce it as a default game mode, people are going to retaliate, and people are probably going to leave the game. If you introduce it as an optional thing, people are not going to use it, just like LFG. So I think it's honestly just too late to introduce 2-2-2. It's like your game has already suffered the blow of your poor decisions at the start. So I don't know that this really fixes anything at this point anymore.
I think it would be great. I think the way they could roll that out is like as a specific game mode, like you said, but then asking players for their feedback. Did you enjoy this more than competitive?
I think it's because I think if you don't introduce incentives, then they're not going to play it.
Well, I think you are right though. Is that it should only be for competitive. It shouldn't be for quick play. Quick play should be like just to hop in and play the game kind of deal.
Yeah, but do we need 2-2-2 anyway if we have hero bans? I think hero bans are the bigger thing, honestly.
I think hero bans are the bigger thing, but I think you will get more variety in compositions with 2-2-2 enforcement.
You say that, but where's small 3-3?
I would legitimately be happy with just hero bans.
Yeah, me too. I mean, either way, I would be looking forward to trying out 2-2-2 and how that works out. Even in quick play, I'm like, a lot of games are won and lost because somebody doesn't want to play tank and whatever. And if we had a matchmaking system that supports, getting 2 tanks as supports and 2 DPS into a team, and they can then choose accordingly to the roles that they want to play anyway, I think that could be huge. I don't know they're capable of doing that. I mean, if you look at the matchmaker right now, a lot of people don't understand how the matchmaker works as is, and they put a lot of blame onto it. The matchmaker is not great, which we learned over time, and it doesn't support the game that they said they want to make versus what it originally was intended to be. So I think there needs to be a lot of work done that I doubt they're capable of doing, simply because they're working on, spectator feature for Overwatch League and whatnot. And maybe some developers are even doing other stuff in the company, who knows. I just think that development 2019, it's all going to be about the Overwatch League, one way or another. If you watch the Overwatch League, you'll probably be up to date on what's going on with the game. Don't even have to watch YouTube videos, don't even have to read forum posts or anything, because they will advertise everything in the league to make sure that you are hyped about it.
Omen by HP.
Sponsored by Omen by HP. I wish we're not sponsored, but yeah. I guess that's it for today. A very long video. Any closing thoughts before we send people off to yell at us for being stupid in the comment section below?
There was one quick thing I forgot to talk about when we were talking about the balance things.
Oh no!
Just like I just didn't get to mention the fact that like Blizzard made a bunch of changes a long time ago that are affecting why GOATS is so effective now. Like they nerfed Junkrat severely around last year during Season 1 of Overwatch League. And Junkrat's one of those characters that doesn't directly counter GOATS now, but it's because he's not as good anymore, and they're kind of buffing him again a little bit, which I think is a good thing.
Well, it's going to be a Reaper situation again. He's going to one-shot people with little to no effort. I'm going to complain in the low again.
I don't disagree. Well, I don't think so, because they buffed his damage, which isn't going to actually do that much, because it's still the same amount of shots to kill somebody. But it will help him counter GOATS. Anyway, and they did things like nerf Widowmaker in their grapple cooldown, which made a huge difference in actually Widowmaker play, because Mercy was stopped being played in pro play back then just because of Widowmaker, not even because Mercy got nerfed. And things like that are the reason those heroes aren't seen anymore, and all of a sudden we get GOATS.
Yikes.
It was very much like you said, be careful what you wish for, guys. You may not like this now, but you never know what's going to come around the corner and be even worse. You never know.
The whole be careful what you wish for thing is, though, like, it's not like it's our fault for not liking something. It's just that we need to keep in mind who we're talking to. We're talking to developers who honestly have proven time and time again that they have no idea how to balance this game. And that's just the reality of it. You may hate me for saying that, for being rude to them, but with what's that, like 3 years in the making of this game, the proof is in the pudding. The developers have shown that they are incapable of properly balancing this game.
Yep. I think we both talked about that plenty in this video. Yeah. So
let's head off for today. Thank you everybody so much for watching. It's been great fun talking about this. Honestly, here's the thing I would just mention really quickly, because one guy hilariously called me a traitor to Overwatch. I've been having a lot of fun learning Apex and sharing what I learned on the channel. Naturally, that was not the smartest financial decision I ever made, but I love doing things I'm excited about. As you could probably hear in today's video, and perhaps even the video on Friday, if there are things to talk about in Overwatch, I do want to talk about them. I still feel passionate about it, but if there's nothing to talk about, we're going to be back in a situation where, oh, Cliff is talking about the same thing over and over again. So that's why I'm uploading Apex. I'm having a lot of fun with Apex. I'm having a lot of fun learning new things. If there's something happening in Overwatch, here I am talking about it. So for anyone who doesn't like that, I understand. Everyone who's supporting me all throughout, very much appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for sticking around. And also thank you for sticking around through this very, very long podcast today, Birdie and I. Birdie, thanks so much for being here too.
Yeah, screw you guys. Go watch his Apex videos.
They're really good, I swear, Kappa. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Hit us a like on your way out if you enjoyed this video. And I hope to see you guys next time. See ya.
Bye.